The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily representative of the coalition or any other entity. This content is intended for mature audiences only.
What is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 139. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
The music is back.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
What up?
Brian Manjoma.
Yo.
And Adam Vale.
I hope you suckers are watching that Lucha Underground. I don't want to hear this bullshit. Watching that. I'm telling you, there's some craziness going on. Crazy.
Yeah, all right. Brett will join us when he gets here and stuff. I think he forgot the fucking show was on tonight. So quick, a couple things before we start. We're not going to be taking any live questions tonight, so just hold off, sit back, relax, check out the show. We got a lot of questions. We want to field them all. We don't want to be here for 3 hours, so no live questions tonight. And also, I need to address this now. I'll also address this on the following throwdown because we have been getting not like an insane amount, but we have been getting a good amount of requests to be on Throwdown, right? We don't do that anymore. Like, we used to have fans on the show, right? But we don't exactly do that anymore. You know what I mean? We're not going to really get into the reasonings why, but it basically, if we start letting people in, then everybody's going to want to be let on, and you can't really do that. You know what I'm saying? It's not really realistic. That's why we mostly, as far as guests goes, we usually have other podcasters on, stuff like that, or people, in the industry, basically. So I know you guys want to hang out with us and all that other stuff. And I totally get that. But at the same time, we can't be having like a ton of people, like random people on all the time like that, So nobody, no, fans on Throwdown, but maybe we'll do something so you guys can interact with us directly. I don't know what that's going to entail. Maybe you guys can give me some ideas, but no fans on Throwdown, so please do not ask us that anymore.
Yeah, we're sorry. We're sorry about that. But as the show has gotten bigger and bigger,
yeah,
it stinks that we have to take certain things away. But it's just because of just the amount of requests and things that we get from that. So sorry about it, guys. But don't worry. Listen, we, as far as the show goes, off the show goes, you see how Tony is, you see how the rest of us are. We pretty much interact with you on Twitter and any of the stuff like that. So, send us stuff on there, ask us any questions on there. We'll perfect, and we usually mention if somebody asks a really good question as far as oh yeah, Bob, blah blah asked this, or even the YouTube guys asking, we've mentioned everybody on the show, but sorry about that.
Yeah. By the way, Brett, perfect timing, man. How are you, brother?
What's up, everybody? I am not doing bad.
Awesome. All right. So, with that out of the way, let's get right into it with those questions, man. All right. Final stage boss. And again, I gave him preferential treatment and moved him up to the front of the line because, he was the guy for years that would always ask us the first question. So he kind of has standing,
What is hilarious, for a lot of you new guys that don't know about Mr. Boss, is that a lot of times he was the only guy asking questions, and he essentially was the show.
Yeah, that's true.
It was all his questions.
Saved us a lot, yeah.
So you know how we're now hey, keep the questioning down to a specific amount. Before there were no questions, and he was the only one filling up the show.
Yeah, so that's why he kind of has a special place in our hearts. All right, so his first question is, this was a funny one. Should Phil Spencer and Microsoft just give up on Japan? You guys already know that Xboxes do not sell in Japan. They sell maybe 10 a week. I am not exaggerating that number. So should Microsoft just give up on it?
I think they already have.
No, they're still putting systems out there.
They won't do it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like going to the mall and seeing that one shop that never sells, but it's still in the mall. It's because the franchise says, nope, we want to say that we're there. We want to say that we're in the mall. So we'll just keep putting that store there, and we'll keep paying its rent, even though it's losing a shitload of money. And I think that's the whole thing. They don't want to say, "Oh yeah, we abandoned Japan." They'll never do it.
No.
Yeah, it's going to look bad if they do that.
It'll look bad.
And the thing is that we don't, it's obviously the Xbox support in Japan has gotten lower and lower. But I feel like if they do something, they may hit. Who knows? But I don't know I don't think they should do it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, even like if it's 2 systems selling, it's still 2 systems selling. You know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at it this way, it's like Microsoft is still the second highest selling console company. And they don't even have Japan. So that means that they're selling everywhere on the earth except for this little tiny island off in the off of the Pacific.
Yeah, they're still making money.
Yeah, that's true. They don't actually need Japan.
They don't need Japan.
It doesn't really have a negative impact on them. You know?
And I feel like the sales around the world kind of offsets the non-selling in Japan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean the U.S. sales alone kind of offset that. That's where Microsoft is at their biggest. You know, you do pretty good in Europe, but not as big as PlayStation. But America, that big chunk of America that helps them out. They don't need Japan at all. You know, so they're not going to give up. But at the same time, the systems aren't going to sell that much over there. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on because there's not really much to say about that one. Next, after the games we've gotten last year and so far this year, do you still think this generation has been underwhelming? I like this question because I think this is the year where this generation finally got its shit together. You know, that was one of the biggest complaints we had on this show for the first 3 years of this generation. Like, where the fuck are these games?
Well, before to go back, you were saying that there are games to play.
What do you mean?
Well, you and before were saying you didn't start saying there weren't any games to play until a little bit later on when everybody else said it. Before then, in those older shows, you were saying, what the fuck is people talking about? I got a bunch of games.
Yeah, but they weren't but dude, if you remember, I labeled shows like where are all the AAA games? Like even I knew what was going on. Yeah, there were games, but there were games that were still on last gen, so they kind of didn't count. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, obviously you can't say there were no games. Obviously there were games, but I'm talking about notable games, current gen games. We didn't really start getting those until maybe last year. Last year was the first year where I didn't have to struggle with making my personal top 10 of the year. I remember for 1 year, I think it was the year before that, 2015, I basically had 7 games and 3 fillers because I'm like, I need something to fill up this thing. There was nothing really compelling out there. This year's been ridiculous. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to plug it again at the end of the show, I was on the quarterly report, right? And we talked about the games that came out this quarter. And then even next quarter is going to be ridiculous. The next quarter is not fall yet. Imagine when fall comes around. This year has been insane. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say by the end of this year, this generation will officially not be underwhelming anymore. You know, I'm not going to say it's the best generation, but it's definitely, it's caught up, to some extent. And Carlos, I'm going to go straight to you because you've been the biggest proponent of fuck this generation. What do you say now?
I'm not going to say fuck this generation, but I'm still going to say that it's still underwhelming. One good year or maybe even great year, does not make for a whole generation, because this generation's been 4 years old now.
Yeah.
So I
agree with you. In case my remarks were not clear, I think this generation is finally getting it. I'm not going to say it's going to be as good as the other ones yet. I don't think we're that far. You know what I mean?
Right. So if this is the starting point of something that's going to gain momentum and keep carrying on, then this generation is going to be live up to expectations. But if this is just an off year, where everything just came together, all the games that were delayed in the previous years, all the games that were delayed for X number of years, Last Guardian came out last year, but it's still within that window. And Final Fantasy 15, maybe it was just the perfect storm of all these games that were delayed, that were supposed to come out in certain times, just came out during all in the same time. So yeah, I might even be whelmed, not underwhelmed.
Yeah,
I'm
whelmed, right? I'm whelmed. I'll say that. By the way, I want to quickly address Matt Wheaton. He goes that he thinks this generation has been great. It's actually he goes, it's one of the best ones. He goes, we got Bloodborne, Nier Automata, Persona 5, Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm not disagreeing with that, but think about how far apart all those games were. It took us a long time to get to that point. You know?
And I guarantee you, when most people are going to mention and give out their list of the best of the generation, they're just going to mention the games that came out in the first quarter of this year. So,
and the thing is that you kind of did do that. You only named one from which was Bloodborne from maybe the second year, right?
Exactly.
Or the third year, or the third year, or something like that. So it doesn't go that far back. You're not talking about what is that that voxel shooter that came out with PlayStation.
Yeah, bro,
4.
like near Persona 5 and Horizon Zero and literally came out at the beginning of this year. You know? Yeah, it was. I'm gonna go with Carlos. I'm whelmed so far. I'm whelmed by this generation. You know, before it was definitely underwhelming. You know, what do you guys have to say, man?
For me, I think it's just the phase this year, the last few years alone. I mean, my gaming has kind of somewhat changed because of the amount of work that I've been doing. So I feel like I haven't really felt it because all of the amount of time of me playing like one game has kind of extended over multiple months, rather than just kind of beat it in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So I mean, I don't feel like I've been like I'm like there's not enough to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Aren't you still playing Bloodborne?
I've completed Bloodborne, but I still want that one last thing. So it's like I've been like it's weird. My gaming habits have kind of gone back to like when I was like, I don't know, 5. Where your mom buys you that one game and says, you better fucking enjoy that game for like, you better not complete that game right away because I'm not buying you anything else until your birthday. You know, it's kind of like that where it's all just extended slowly up, you know?
One thing this generation hasn't done that the previous generations have done really well is create new AAA franchises that we all gravitate to.
Yeah.
If you think about okay.
I was gonna say that's the problem. That's the biggest problem now, because if you think about it, now games cost even more to do. All that, all those high resolution all that stuff all costs even more now. More people are needed to do those sorts of big old franchises. So like now you're probably if you could get like how like the development time was a lot shorter for a lot older games. If you had that amount of development time with a smaller sort of staff, you could definitely take the chance of making a new franchise, which is pretty much what the guys at Ninja Theory are doing. With Hellblade.
Yeah. Carlos, what are you saying?
Yeah, it's definitely like an extreme like standpoint here. You either have those super mega AAA games like Destiny and Call of Duty, or you have the indie titles. But yeah, like last generation, we had so many franchises that we're getting all the sequels to right now. Like all the biggest games that came out, maybe except for like Horizon and stuff like that, have been sequels. If you think about it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like new IPs, very, very rare. New AAA IPs, very, very rare.
I mean, we and then like even with the game like The Last of Us, it's kind of a twist on something that's already existed, a zombie game.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily agree with that. At least they took a different approach to it. But I do have to say, like, I'm currently underwhelmed because not the number of games, but the style of games. We haven't really done anything but ride last generation's coattails. We did a lot of experimenting last generation of different kinds of games, of what worked and what didn't, and everything seems to kind of homogenized itself into one genre of game, and we're seeing less diversity in types of games that we play.
Yeah, but Brett, don't you like this generation because of Nintendo?
I wouldn't really. Man, they haven't been out that long. I don't know if that's kind of the same argument we have at PlayStation. Like, I can't say that this generation is good because I've enjoyed 4 Nintendo games. Like,
I guess I should say, do you think this generation has started to get its act together because with the help of Nintendo? You think it's gotten better? I haven't heard you this excited about gaming in a long fucking time.
That's true. I'm excited, but I'm excited about things coming up. And actually, it's been a weird conversation I've had with several Switch owners, and they've kind of been like, it's weird. It's a different experience than I'm used to getting on PlayStation. I'm getting a different kind of game than what I'm used to. And I've had this conversation 3 times in the last week with 3 separate people. So yes, I do think that. I think that if Nintendo is successful, that hopefully other people will start to kind of take note that maybe we don't all just want re-skinned Assassin's Creed / Far Cry game over and over and over and over again. And they'll start to take some more chances with it. In reality, probably what we'll see is them just like, oh, we're going to add climbing mechanics to every open world game right now. And I won't necessarily complain about that. I don't know that means like we've reached the cream of the crop.
Well,
I mean, the cream of the crop of the climbing mechanics is Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's the only one right now, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's hitting its stride now, but there's 2 potential trends that could happen that will derail everything. One is catering to esports and all the team shooters that are happening. It seems that our companies are focused on, there's money in esports, and team shooters are huge right now. Overwatch is gigantic, so let's make those. You got Bethesda, making Quake Champions, and you got Fortnite. You got a bunch of other ones coming up.
BioWare making Anthem.
Yes, BioWare making Anthem. So that's more like Destiny's making money. So it's the same type of thing, and that trend I don't like because they're taking resources away from big adventure single player experiences for the potential of more sales, right? So we lose out in the end, and that trend I don't want to see go expand, because I think there's like, how many of these games can you get into market and have them like be that lucrative?
Yeah, no, you're right about that. That's a huge problem, but we could kind of get into that with another similar question later on. Anybody else want to say anything else about this current gen?
I see something happening.
What's up?
It's Battlegrounds. I see Battlegrounds. I see that new method of gameplay right there. I think that we're going to see that get adapted into other franchises. I could see that happening into, let's say, into a Halo or into a Call of Duty. Where they throw you into this war and it's just you versus all these other people. They're going to try to incorporate that as a mode because they see how popular. Because basically, that game is just a mode. It's just, this is it. You jump in there, you fight to death, and that's it. It's 100 people.
Here's the problem. You're kind of talking about the same phenomenon that happened with Warcraft, though, and it's ironic that Blizzard's the one doing this now with Overwatch. But yeah, people looking at like, esports. There's a lot of money in MOBAs and things like that, so everybody rushes to get it, but they don't understand that. Generally speaking, it's not a pyramid; it's a pillar. Generally, one company stands at the top. And it doesn't matter if their game is the best. It matters that that's the game that everybody else is playing. And so just like when Warcraft was massively popular and everybody wanted to come out with their own MMO, they found it in the end to be pretty much a fool's errand because there wasn't that much market share, because it's a type of game that you play for hours and hours and hours and hours on end. And people just don't have the time for more of those kinds of games. I never know people to play. I've very rarely known people to play more than one MMO at a time. And I'm pretty sure you're going to fall into the same issue with MOBAs. So when you come out with all of these Overwatch clones, at least half of them are going to fall on their face right away. And then after a while, the rest of them are going to fizzle out to nothing after they fail to take the throne away from Overwatch.
I mean, yeah, I agree. But there always is usually one.
It's one of those things that they have to try.
But I mean, it's like Warcraft also is an interesting situation because Warcraft took that from EverQuest. EverQuest used to be that.
Yeah, there's always something, but let's move on because we're getting a little off topic there. All right, next one. Go ahead, Brian.
I like why Brian is just like delayed. It's like that extra minute. It's like when you go in your answering service and you say hello. I can't come to the phone right now. It's like that.
Brian, jump in.
It's that one bit of delay where.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I am in agreement with most of you guys, but only some of the way. Like this gen has been underwhelming, and just by having a good half year so far does not change things. Does not even offset how just disappointing this gen has been. And I think it's a bit too soon to say that it will be good. Like, okay, if the trend does continue, then yes, it will be a whelming generation, I guess. But I don't know if it will carry on this momentum. And I hope it will be. Oh, I hope it does, but I don't think it will be
Yeah, we'll
because
have to see about that. No, that's a good
I just
point.
I just don't have
It's
faith in its companies. I really
Yeah.
don't have faith.
that's fair.
Yeah, Metal Gear survives in the
Oh
horizon.
God,
Exactly.
that's gonna ruin the generation.
I don't think I don't think that Metal Gear Survive is going to ruin anything. I don't even think it's going to do very much, to be honest.
Hopefully,
I think
All right,
it's.
man. Yeah,
I think it's. I'm just going to go to it. It's
Yeah.
not as bad as you think, but I don't think it'll do
Well,
really.
Konami has no goodwill left in the community.
Yeah,
I
No,
think
it's
people
not.
would just not buy it
It's-
because it's
yeah.
them.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen. So
yeah. All right, man. Next question here from Mister. And I'm sorry if I get your name wrong. Ab El Wadud. He goes, and this is recent thing. I had to move this up to the queue too. I'm like, okay, we got to talk about this. He goes, what do you guys think about people getting a lot of GameStop credit for free and essentially gaming the system, right? So basically, if you were on Twitter today, you saw that dudes were posting up basically, actually. Chris or Carlos, you explain this shit better than I can, and I'll jump in with my thoughts later. But it seems a little bit kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't seem right, but it's still within their rights. You know, it's a weird thing. It's like, okay, you guys are doing something really shady, but you're doing it to a shady company. I don't know how to feel about this.
But here's the thing: is it really shady? It's only shady.
Yeah, let's actually explain what it is.
You go ahead.
Yeah, Chris, what's going on here, man, with this
sounds like
GameStop
business
shit?
to me.
Yeah,
Like
it's
Brian,
No.
what happened? Okay,
No.
at least you're jumping in.
it just sounds like business to me. It's like they're just doing what like any smart.
Yeah, but
small
let's
business
explain to the people because they may not know.
there's a trade-in deal when I think if you trade in 6 games, you get an extra 60 to 70% off, and then if you're a GameStop rewards member, you get more or cash back. So basically, what they're doing, this guy says, go to Walmart, find a bunch of really dirt cheap games. You know, he bought like the old Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Need for Speed Rivals and all, Plants vs Zombies, games that are a bargain bin at Walmart, right? He takes them over to GameStop, trades them in, then gets this huge discount plus cash back. So yeah, it's taking advantage of the system. You spend $100 at Walmart, and then you're getting $180 in credit at GameStop. So that's so your bonus is $80, right? You get $80 more worth more content. So he if you keep doing that, it adds up, right? It adds up your rewards. Eventually, you do that 4 times, and you have a Scorpio or something,
Yeah, because basically, like the game, like you trade in these old ass games, you get a bunch of credit, then you use that credit to buy games that people actually want,
Yeah.
and you keep doing that over and over and over and over and over again until you get the amount you want. Like I saw a guy with a receipt for $2,000 or something like that. It's crazy, you
Yeah.
know.
One of the games they're using to buy and it's the smart route to make, it's Nintendo games, because those games never go down in price.
You notice that all the games that are like the biggest sellers or resale sellers are all Nintendo games, right?
Yeah.
Even Wii U games, very interesting. But my whole thing is like, it just seems kind of like, again, I don't know a lesser term for this. It just seems kind of scummy to me. That's like, you buy a game, you resell it, you buy it, resell it, buy it, resell it, buy it, resell it, buy it, resell it. It's like,
I don't,
you
I don't agree. I think if GameStop is stupid enough to make this mathematical error where
Yeah.
people can get such a huge advantage in money, then yeah, you should. That they deserve to have it exploited.
And now that they know about it, they're probably going to
Oh,
change
yeah,
it.
it's over. It's already over. You
Yeah.
can't do it anymore. It's already over.
Yeah, it's already got exploited enough.
But imagine being that guy in the front of the counter doing this for like 10 minutes, and you're behind this dude, or you're the guy at the counter like ringing him up. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
here's the biggest thing about it. It's because GameStop didn't even figure this out.
Yeah.
And to be honest, whoever fucking wrote that online is an idiot, because they should have just left that shit on the DL and passed that shit in notes, on paper. Don't write that shit on the internet.
I guarantee you the person who did it didn't think of it, that they picked that up from a forum somewhere after it had been passed around a little bit. They wanted to be the glory hog.
Exactly. Don't write it. Don't write it anywhere.
Yeah, dudes made videos out of it showing how to do it.
Yeah, pass that shit along.
You can pass it along because GameStop was going to find out about it sooner or later. So
eventually,
the videos were just like, do this right now, right?
Yeah.
Before they kill this program. So that's fine. I think, they exploited it, and then they're like, go do this before they kill it. And if you got in on it, then, good for you.
Yeah, our boy Enrique from Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, he got that. He did that shit. He got $500 doing this shit.
He's got half of he's got enough for a Scorpio
minus tax, by the way.
I remember I bought my first Athlon doing something similar. There was a .com site a long time ago that had, if it was your birthday, you would get $100. So all I had to do was make an account, say it was my birthday, get $100. And my buddies did it all, like, so yeah, you just, there's ways to, like, that's an easy exploit. There's no way for them to check. It's not like I have to hand over my social security or anything to sign up, right? You just go, I'm Bob, and tomorrow's my birthday. Okay, there's $100, you know? Then you pass that credit over, and then you make another account, do that. So there's things that have come up in different companies like that you can exploit, but it's like, yo, GameStop is stupid for not figuring that people would figure that out. Like,
GameStop has been exploiting us for fucking years.
They've been exploiting everyone. I don't feel bad for them in the least.
Yeah.
If you told me somebody,
you're doing this to GameStop, so it's like,
yeah,
it's not like some mom and pop, you know. It's
fuck
like,
GameStop, man.
Even then, like they know what they're doing. Like they could. There are people out there who have figured this out, but they're going to make more money offering a deal that can be exploited than they would not, because not everybody is going to think of how to exploit that. So you have to understand, like, social engineering is not a new thing. Like the Anarchist Cookbook, even back in those days, had all kinds of ways that you could, get free pizzas and get free meals and get free hotel stays and things like that. And it was always about gaming the system. But the thing is, 1 to 5% of the people usually figure out how to game the system, and the other, 95% or more are completely clueless on it.
Yeah, but back in the day, they didn't have the internet. Like, you go get the Anarchist Cookbook, then you have all these secrets, right? You couldn't go on Reddit or anything and tell everybody, yo, you could do this now. Go do it before they figure it out. Like, you don't have that communication.
Yeah, see, that's why I said, you got to pass that shit around in zines, like in the old days,
Yes.
You gotta get you subscribe to your fucking your mailing list, and you just send a physical letter to somebody. Yo, this is how you get that shit from GameStop.
But yeah, they already put the kibosh on that anyway, and the whole thing is up until July 4th, so it wasn't going to last long anyway, And that's that. So let's move on here to Mr. G Megaforce 123, man. He goes, here's his first question. Is it safe to assume that Valve will never release a game ever again? He goes, Left 4 Dead developer is gone, Portal developer is gone, Half-Life developer is gone. Has Valve been reduced to releasing just multiplayer-only games based on mods? I understand Valve is making too much money from Steam sales or making stupid weapon skins for Counter-Strike to be bothered with new games. It's just such a shame what they've become.
There's no motivation.
Yeah,
they don't need to. They got Steam. They don't need to make games anymore.
There's no motivation.
They don't need to make any more games. To be honest,
they don't need to. Yeah, it's like McFarlane. It's like, I don't need to draw comics anymore. Fuck, I'm selling toys.
Yo, man, he's selling toys. He's doing other things. He's making shit that makes more money.
Yeah, that's true. So that's what Valve's doing.
The amount of man hours that goes into making a freaking game, and the investment that you have to make. Fuck, might as well just make a store.
Yeah. The most brilliant thing ever, So yeah, no, they're not coming out with another game. They don't, no reason for that at all.
Plus, they brought new life to a genre that everyone thought was fucked up. They were like, no one wants to release games on PC because they're like, well, everyone's hacking them anyway, and posting them on as wear sites. So what's the point? You're not going to make any money in PC game. They changed all that with Steam. And they brought money. They showed it's like, no, these people on PC are willing to pay. Not all of them are just downloading illegal copies.
Well, that was just because accessibility. Like, that's just how iTunes worked. The same thing the music industry said. It's like, oh, people are just stealing music and they don't want to go to the store. And Steve Jobs, like, if you gave people a way to just buy it easily and buy what they want and not buy a whole album for $16 to $20, which is stupid, then they will buy the music and not pirate it. And then he proved it and it worked. So the Steam is the same thing for that. Like, you give people accessibility and they won't crawl on the IRC or go on BitTorrent and get their stuff. They'll just go, oh shit, it's right there.
Exactly.
And it's a sale. It's $3. I'll throw them $3 or whatever.
And build a community around it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's, I wouldn't see anything new from Valve for a long time. I feel like they'll just just continue to sell the whatever they're selling on there. Maybe they'll if they want to, they can develop something that's specifically to Valve. I mean, to Steam, but I don't think so. I think
well, back in January of this year, Gabe did a Reddit AMA in which he did confirm that they're working on a new single player game.
I don't believe him.
Yeah, I don't believe him either.
You know what I also think. You know what I also think? I don't think they're going to release that on anything else.
You think it'll be a Steam exclusive?
I think it'll just be a Steam exclusive.
They
have the clout for that now.
But I don't know. I think that would just start pissing people off, and then developers, because remember, they still rely on third parties to post their games on there. Third parties say, you know what, fuck that, we'll just keep all our games. I mean, EA's pretty much done that.
It could be a timed exclusive.
Ubisoft does it to certain titles.
Yeah, I could see that though. Like, fuck it, this game's just on Steam. There's enough Steam users to account for that. And if they sell it really cheap, the game will be really popular.
Yeah, they make Half-Life like $5, right?
Remember, just because the game's single player doesn't mean it needs to be like AAA or anything. It could be some cheap indie game,
Yeah, they could just be making a platformer. We're making a single player game.
There you go.
I don't see why Steam would do that to themselves. They don't need to. It's not like the platform is the smallest one out there or has little to no visibility. It's the biggest one out there on PC games, and it's they have no reason to do that apart from greed. And the fact that the Steam store is so successful, it's literally just pointless. It'll do them more harm than good to just limit it to their own platform.
It's just amazing because people, I remember before saying, well, the internet is so big, there's so many different outlets, there's no way one will ever really dominate and take control. I'm well, it's happened.
People like things simple, dude. Yeah. If you can find that one thing, that's what they'll gravitate towards. That's how human nature is.
Yeah, or when it becomes part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
When that one place becomes the place to get certain things. Yeah, kind of like the way Amazon works. Because if you think about it, obviously we're just a bookstore originally, but then they started, then they just became that place to get things from.
I mean
there is room in the market for other types of.
Yeah, there are. But here's the thing: think about it like this, right? And this happens a lot. But I'm going to use the Switch as an example, right? When the Switch pre-orders first went out, nobody could get it on that because everybody flooded Amazon. You know how I got it? I went to Best Buy. It was easy. But again, since Amazon is that main thing, and even, stepping away from that realm, think about it like this: with streaming, what's the biggest thing? Netflix, right? Everybody knows about Netflix. Mm-hmm. People like things simple. So that whole notion of the internet's so vast, people are gonna feel they're gonna have too many options. No, they're gonna find that one thing that's the most popular and stick with it. That's just human nature. Think about I could go give you so many examples. Look at fucking Uber, right? You got Lyft out there. People don't usually go to Lyft; they go to Uber because that's the popular one. People like things simple. That makes sense. But yeah, to answer the question, I don't see Valve. They said that, but we'll see. But they don't need to.
They don't need to.
All right. Answer this man's next question. This is an interesting one too. Have you ever, quote unquote, outgrown a type of game because it focused on characters younger than you? He goes, recently I was talking to my brother about Persona 5. He mentioned that this was probably going to be his last Persona game that he's going to play. Right now he's 33, married, and has 2 kids. From his perspective, he doesn't see himself spending time with a game that is focused on high school students and going to school when he is so far removed from that age and setting. So I'm curious if any of you guys have gone through a similar thing, not necessarily in terms of rejecting something because it is quote unquote for kids, but because the game happens to focus on someone younger than you are. Very good question. I like that one.
I've never the age of a character is never called into question. If it's a compelling story or whatever, the character can be any age, as long as the character's not fucking annoying. That's the thing that always pisses me off. Where they're just this annoying, like Shinji from fucking Evangelion. I can't watch that fucking show because of that idiot. But yeah, I've never.
The age doesn't really matter. When I read this question, the first thing I thought about was Ni no Kuni. You play as a little 8-year-old. It's like, whatever, the game's good. I don't really care what his age is. He's going through, when he goes into the real world, he's dealing with 8-year-old kid bullshit. But whatever, as long as the game's fun, that I don't matter. I kind of understand where you're coming from with Persona, but it's not really so much because of like, oh, they're high school, because just when you see so many anime that are in high school, you kind of get a little sick of it. But it's not really because of the age, it's more about the setting. It's like, guys, we've seen this setting so many times already, but no, doesn't really affect me. As long as the game's good, I don't care. What do you guys say? Jump in.
Yeah, no, I don't have any issues with it. I mean, I detach myself. It's just like watching a movie. It's like a movie or a show. I like watching the Goldbergs, but I'm not in high school and doing any of that. It's just fun to watch and see other people relive it in their view. So.
Yeah, the whole point of, I guess, these types of mediums like video games and movies is to try to escape your life and try to put yourself in the shoes of someone else, characters and stuff. So I never get affected by the age, whether it be older or younger.
Brett, Brian, anything?
Well, we know that,
I have never really had that issue so far, but then again, I am like on the younger scale to these guys. I'm like in my mid to late 20s, so it doesn't really affect me. But even though like I play games when I've been like kids, games when I've been grown-ups, it all just depends on the game. Like if the game is fun, then I'll play it, like regardless. Like Senran Kagura, like that game was fun. So I played it, even though I played as a female like the whole time because it's a female cast. But just hey, it's a fun game to play.
Man, you just like looking at them titties.
Hey, you have a good plot, Tony.
A very bouncy plot, Chris, man, what do you say?
Oh no, it's a non-issue. I'm 39. I don't care. I'll play Persona. I'll play Kuni. I played Pokemon Sun. You're always playing a kid in Pokemon games.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter. Like that age has never been an issue for me and a character. Look at the Metal Gear. It's like, oh geez, this is happening in the 60s. I didn't grow up there, so I'm not going to play this because I can't relate. It's never been an issue. It's always like it's role playing. That like some games are power fantasies and some games it's just using yourself in someone else's shoes. So I would say maybe for like the guy who asked the question, your brother, it's not really an age issue. It's just relatability, or maybe he's gotten to a part of his life that he's stopped relating to or pretending to enjoy other things because like life hits him too hard or something. I don't know, but I would re-examine that. I don't. To me, when I read this, I don't think this is an age issue.
I feel like it. Well, I mean, not to, I'm not going to say anything about you, but I agree with Chris. It does seem like it's an issue where it could be like his wife coming over and like, oh, you're still playing those games where you're playing cartoon characters again. It's like it's the other people around him in his life judging him on the content that he has chosen to enjoy, rather than actually him.
People shaming him and stuff.
Yeah, so this is what I've seen before. Like even coming from being, just growing up, and your mom or somebody like that, or your father comes over and says, "Wait, you're still playing those stupid things?" Like something like that. Like essentially, and I can see how that can affect that sort of decision too.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Brett, get in here, man.
I surprised kind of disagree. I have several games that I just there gets to a point where I can't relate to the main character. And I'll be honest, I'm fighting some of that in a lot of anime that I watch. And the only saving grace is, a lot of times in anime or even sometimes video games, like a young protagonist will not necessarily act like a child, even if they are a child. Like it's really easy when watching Attack on Titan to forget how young Eren is or how old anybody is just because they exhibit adult behavior. But there are games that exhibit childlike behavior that, like, Kingdom Hearts is a great example for me. I could never get into that. It was just, I didn't really enjoy the classic Mickey Mouse, goofy Disney stuff. And Sora and his friends, it was just, it didn't resonate with me.
Did you ever like it?
No.
See, then there you go. So it wasn't that you grew out of it.
You were a kid, did you
never liked it?
Yeah, I was already too old for it. Like I liked those types of games, but I didn't like that one.
No. My question is, did you ever, when you were a kid, did you ever like Disney?
When I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what I wanted. Because the thing is, that was part of the reason I never got into Kingdom Hearts. Even when I was a kid, I didn't like Disney stuff. You know, I was like, it's too. Even when I was a kid, I was like, it's too kiddie, and I don't like that shit.
No, I liked it once upon a time, and then I remember feeling very much like I've outgrown this game, and I remember being distinctly aware of like I understand that other people may be able to just, you know, that I might be doing the whole I'm too cool for school thing and not letting myself enjoy it, but I cannot relate. And that's one of the things, honestly, I'm a little bit hesitant about Persona with, is that I don't give a fuck about high school. Like, I don't care, and I understand that it's built in this time management game, and if I look at it and play it for what it is, and try not to overthink it, I'm sure I'll be able to enjoy it. But I'm also sure there'll be those moments where I'm like, it's fucking high school. None of what you're doing actually matters. Like, all these things that seem like big important things aren't really big important things. And even then, like, the whole premise of the game where you tap into the mind of corrupt adults, like, yeah, okay, I get it. Young, innocent, blah de blah. Like, you're tapping into the minds of people who have been, you know, had their nuts kicked in by what is life. And it's really easy as a high schooler in a small world to judge and to cast this, you know, the shadow of like, well, you know, all these people, they're twisted and they're evil. It's like, well, no, like, life is complicated. It's way harder than you think it's going to be. And so even the premise of that game, I'll be honest, it kind of deters me a little bit. Like, it seems like it's just championing petty problems to me. And so there are definitely games where, because of an age discrepancy, or because, you know, high school is a great example. I'm too far removed from high school to really care all that much about it. Now, if you make it entertaining and fun, then sure. Like, I enjoyed driving a forklift in Shenmue. Like, if you do it right, anything can be fun, but it definitely isn't as much of a draw for me. And in certain instances, I will say it detracts, but
but the one thing that you're mentioning is a lot of games that you haven't actually played.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's not a whole lot that I've moved on from.
Like Tony, for example, would say those last week's Throwdown, or the one before, where he said he grew out of those kind of shooters.
This is a different thing. This is specifically talking about the characters in the game being too young. This is it's a totally different thing than growing out of a genre. It's a totally different thing. You know,
that's what I'm saying. There are some, and we're talking about it, and that's why I kind of switch it up to anime. Like, I have trouble relating to younger characters when their worldview is based around their age, and the best example of that is high school. You don't see a lot of that in games outside of Japanese. Like, most of the time you're playing fully grown adult people. You're not playing kids a lot of times.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. Mr. Dio with a pair of questions, both about Capcom too. The first one is, with Capcom set in their ways to continue to nickel and dime their consumers with unfavorable necessary business practices to support their falling fighter titles, do you have any ideas on what needs to be done for Capcom to reset the bar, delivering in favor of their consumers? So basically, how would you fix Capcom?
Tell them to copy what Arc System Works is doing. Exactly that shit. Because you know what? Every single thing inside of a fucking Arc System Work game can be unlocked by playing the game enough, whether it be online, whether it be playing the story mode, anything. Or if you really want that fancy colored costume for any one of those characters, you can spend real money and buy that one thing.
Yeah, and also the graphics.
And the graphics will be cool if they did something like that. But I'm not worried about that.
But from the business standpoint, I agree with that. Yeah. Just do what Arc System Works does. Do
what fucking. I mean, isn't the new Tekken like that too? Where it's like Brian, what do you know about the new Tekken? Usually the Tekken games is like you continue to play the game and then you unlock things, right? Is that the new one?
Tekken have never really had DLC until I think the 7th one, where they announced like they had like some DLC stuff. But yeah, it's just been you buy the game and then everything you just have to play to unlock, and that's it. Like, no stupid DLC crap. Just like, hey, it's there, it's on the disc, just play it, and that's it.
Anybody else?
I I don't know. I don't think that they're gonna change the whole nickel and diming. Like if it makes money, no matter how shitty it is, they're gonna keep doing it because it makes money. They really should just release a fully fledged game with everything out, not even a fucking season pass. Just like here is the entirety of the game. Go nuts. And give you actually a shitload of content. And by doing so, they could viciously compete with any competitors, and pretty much offer a more robust experience for the same price and take hold of the genre again. But that would be a huge goodwill move on their part and at least a minor gamble. So I don't really see them doing that when they can appease their shareholders and their bottom line by just nickeling and diming the shit out of you. They don't care about 4 years down the road. That's the problem. A lot of these companies, they don't have the foresight to think 1, 2, 3 years down the road. Even they're focusing as far as their next quarter and what they're going to pump out, and to a certain extent, you can't blame them because they've got shareholders to appease, they've got overhead to cover, they've got other projects that they're probably working on. But until somebody really notices and starts paying attention to fan service and what a large return you can have on that is, I don't think they're going to change. Which is why we should all support people or companies like CD Projekt Red. Like, I've made no secret of I'm not a huge Witcher fan, but I still think as a company they are the tits and the high watermark of how we as gamers would like to be treated. So there's definitely a precedent in there for a return on it. I just don't know that. Let's all be honest. Capcom's kind of a shit-eating company. Like, they're not gonna do that. They don't hold their customers in that high regard, I don't think.
To be honest, Capcom has always nickeled and dimed you. This is not a new thing. I think we've said this before. With every single iteration of Street Fighter, like at least Street Fighter 2. Come on, guys, seriously.
Street Fighter 4 did the same thing. You had to buy each version.
You have to buy every single version, whatever the original Street Fighter, all the different. You have a sequel of the game, and it's not really. Come on, guys, it's not. They've always done that sort of stuff.
I think if all these companies want to get into esports and really focus on that, then make a separate game at a different price and say, hey, this is all this part is. Don't charge us the full price knowing that you're giving half-ass. Just make a special version. But like, yeah, this is the esport edition. That's it.
But I mean, generally, esport is the only, like, think about it this way, like Street Fighter, for example, like it wasn't built and it didn't build its empire around the idea that you sit down and you just play through it. Like, multiplayer had a huge part of that, and its growth and its longevity had a lot to do with the idea that you bring Street Fighter over to your buddy's house and you play a lot of Street Fighter. Like, when I was a kid, I played more Street Fighter with friends than I did by myself, absolutely. And now in this day and age of not a whole lot of people come over and visit face-to-face, and gaming isn't really geared towards that, you almost have to support that multiplayer experience through online play. You can't rely just on couch co-op anymore.
Well, I mean, the thing is the problem is that it's really a union of that sort of stuff. There are those people that play just arcade mode. I mean, I lived close to Tony and I lived close to Chris, but at the same time, though, online existed, so I would play a lot of those games like Marvel vs. Capcom or Street Fighter Alpha or any one of those other Capcom games on my own and get all the endings and all that other stuff. And I still think that is an important part to it. So it's not just one half like they were giving with Street Fighter 5 or with
I think Capcom's making some business changes. When I read their financial report, I saw that they were changing their board around and stuff. So those kinds of changes need to trickle out, and decisions need to be changed, and certain projects were going in a certain direction. So I think they're trying to change for the better, but the policies could be changed on that time. It's like Street Fighter and stuff is born out of arcades. We pump quarters into this, we play strangers and play friends. Those days are over. Yeah. And they're still like, we want you to put quarters in this thing and we'll just call it DLC. Well, those days are done, and we don't want to do that. People want to be able to buy a whole game and get a whole game. And that's what they need to understand. And they haven't gotten that yet. So the game will probably suffer for it.
Or games, will suffer for it. It seems like they're doing this with all their titles, basically. All right.
I feel like, I mean,
yeah,
you know, they better get something right, because if it screws up with that new Monster Hunter game, they are up shit's creek.
Yeah, because man. All right. Anybody else have any ideas how to fix Capcom's?
Besides making those separate versions, that's the only thing I can think of. If they really want to focus on that, just at least for one generation, just to see if anyone buys it. You know, see if it works. Don't pull
What you mean, like Street Fighter the Story Edition, and then Street Fighter the multiplayer edition?
No. That's not it. Yeah, Street Fighter and all that. That's all together. I'm talking about the way they want to advertise it as separate, something special, not just multiplayer. Esport does more than that. You know, you connect to tournaments, and they have all this other integration where you have to do a ranking system and stuff. You know, it's sort of like the way Halo does it. Halo, you have to register. You know, you can't just be playing the game. You know, so it depends on how serious they want to take it.
Yeah. Can I also just say release Deep Down?
Hey.
You know what Deep Down is? Monster Hunter.
A pipe dream.
The new Monster Hunter game.
Funny.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Deep Down now.
All right. The next question is a little more interesting. He goes, which developer would you rather see work on Capcom's other shelved fighting games, and what title would that be? Any dream game you fancy with Capcom as the publisher and a third-party developer of your choice. He goes, my personal answer is developer Arc System Works, mainstay title Street Fighter, and Dream Games, Darkstalkers versus Guilty Gear.
You said that on Twitter. I saw that shit.
Or Dio, right?
Yeah, he said that on Twitter.
Okay. Well, you know, now we said it.
I agree. Arc System Works.
Yeah, Arc System Works. Get them to do a Capcom game. There you go.
Get them. I would love to see them just on a Darkstalkers game, just go nuts with all the different animations and shit like that. That would be so fitting for that.
Yeah.
And you know, they can kind of fix some of those broken characters.
All right. Anybody else?
The only other one I'd say is if Iron Galaxy isn't working exclusively on Killer Instinct, get them to work on Rival Schools.
Yeah,
give me a Rival Schools
that was good.
Yeah, Rival Schools is good. Yeah. What about I can't think of it. Bring back JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the fighting game, because that hasn't been released in a while. But who would be a good company for that?
Wait,
that was a Capcom game?
Yeah.
Well, the first JoJo game.
No, there was one at E3 2014 that I played.
Oh, really?
I'm thinking that was probably Namco.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about the old school one.
Yeah,
maybe Capcom doesn't own the license anymore. All right, never mind.
There's been JoJo games. There's actually been quite a bit of them on Namco Bandai.
All right, never mind. I just showed my age.
You remember the intro to the JoJo's new series? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
It looks like that 3D animation that's in there. That's exactly how those games look.
Ooh, that looks good.
It looks it looks like what Street Fighter 4 was trying to do.
Yeah.
I want to see a remake of Power Stone, but I don't know who I'd want to do it.
Nintendo?
Nintendo. I was about to say that too.
Yeah, probably.
The guys who do Smash Brothers, maybe.
That's Nintendo.
Yeah. See, well, I mean, what division of Nintendo makes it? I don't.
I'm not sure.
Division.
It's just Sakurai's team.
Yeah, Sakurai. Yeah.
They would work on that.
Nintendo just kind of melds all their studios together, I guess.
Well, no, it's like
a DC like old school DC comics where they don't tell you the name, you know.
Well, no, there is no name. Sakurai just hires a bunch of really awesome dudes he likes working with.
I forgot. There's divisions. There's HAL Laboratories. There's Intelligent Systems. They work on Fire Emblem. There's Game Freak. They work on Pokemon. There's division names. I just don't remember what Sakurai's guys are called. I don't know if he took over HAL or something else. I don't remember.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to answer this? I'm going to take that as a no. So we'll move on to Mr. Hashling and Slasher. His first question is, why do you guys think there's Brian, get ready. Why do you guys think there's so much misinformation about PC as a gaming platform in the general public? Brian, you start us off, man. Because you've written about this before.
Why do I think there's so much? It's a mixture of things. The first and foremost, people's biases against it. There's it's just one of those things where people just seem to have some preconceived notions about things, and people are just generally just lazy these days, and they don't tend to do their research. Hence why there's so much just fake news just going around, because people are just like, oh, someone said it on the internet, therefore it must be true. It's like, really? Come on, guys. A mix of that and just a mix of fanboys just going around and running their mouth. Like, we've seen this a lot with Hip Hop Gamer. Like, okay, as much as I love that dude, like, he spread a lot of misinformation about gaming on the PC, and it got to the point where I just was like, okay, you know what? I'm just not going to respond to him. I'm just going to just ignore him, and that's it. I'm done.
He said it had no games.
Yeah, it's like it's just lots of misconceptions by people that don't own the platform, and that's what it tends to be. Because I noticed that when people don't own a platform, then they'll just make up assumptions based on what they think is true, and then it turns out that like half those things are just wrong.
Now, it's like that with almost everything. Yeah.
That sounds like old Tony too.
What misinformation exactly are we speaking of? And like, because I know that there is some, but not all of it's derogatory either.
I feel like one of the biggest. I think it's an old bit of misinformation, where PC games was a bit of a wasteland. I think it's obviously. I mean, they've always made PC games.
That was
there's always been PC games. But I think that's where it comes from. I think that's where it is, where it's like there's this antiquated version of PCs where it's like, nah, there's not a lot of games on those. They're big box PCs, and you can't even find them in stores. You know, it's like that. You know,
that's fair. I mean, maybe I run with just more PC educated people, but like the biggest misinformations I see are ones that actually kind of tip their hat towards PC, like the idea that, you know, oh, all games on PC are super cheap. You can just pretty much buy any game you want for like $5. Like, well, no, that's you can catch them certain games on sale. You can buy a lot of indie games. There's a bigger price variance, but you know, you still generally pay if you want a game on release. You know, top price for a game on release.
Not really. I mean, there's so many like Green Man games and stuff. They'll have a game for like $40 before it's even out for pre-orders. CD Keys does that too.
CDs, baby.
Yeah, CD Keys does that. They're infamous for that.
Here's one misconception, right? That getting into PC gaming is really hard because it's so hard to build a PC. I learned that firsthand. No, what is him? You just pay the motherfucker.
I cannot believe this, man. Like Tony is literally just saying that.
Yep, and I said it. You know.
Now go back. Go back 100 episodes and listen to what Tony has to say about PC games.
It's easy though. It's like either you get, if you don't know, take me for example. I don't know shit about PCs, right? You have a buddy that does know about PC. He takes you to PC partpicker.com. You go to fucking Micro Center, have them build the shit for you, and you're done. You know. So that's one misconception. Because Brian, remember we got into like a debate with this one guy. He was like, "You still need to like do some shit with your drivers." Like, no, you don't. The computer does all that shit for you now. You know.
The time you have issues with the drivers if you're dealing with older games.
Yeah, well, Brian, there's one specific thing where you laughed at this guy for saying that because it's just not true.
Yeah, the whole like you have to like update your drivers like every single time a game comes out. It's like, really? Like I've never done that.
Really?
Like
yeah.
Just does it itself now.
Yeah, dude. As a matter of fact, you know how I know a new game comes out with my driver's like, hey, you need to update. Like, okay, I guess a new game's out.
If you use NVIDIA Experience, it has its own little presets.
And even building your PC, like it's all color coordinated now, so it's even easy to build the shit. Like, people say that you need a fucking degree from like a fucking college to build a PC.
It's easier now than it was back in the day when you had.
Oh yeah, come on,
yeah. They really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what these guys are thinking. Like, oh, I gotta set jumpers and.
Oh my God.
This is the shit.
The right way.
Yeah,
you don't have to jump anymore.
This is the shit. This is the shit Manny was talking about. It's these old ass antiquated ideas that are still around. You know.
Yeah, like I used to build PCs when I was like a kid, and that was like before YouTube. Like now you can go to YouTube. There's hundreds of videos.
Guides. You actually had to read manuals.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
That's what happened with me because I bought a new graphics card. I didn't know how to put the thing in there. I was stuck. So I went to Twitter, I went to YouTube, and I figured it out. It's easy now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like for a lot of there is a slot for a graphic card. Unless your graphics card is some special one, or it doesn't fit on your motherboard, obviously you need to get a new motherboard. But still, it's all there for you. You can just get it. You can do it. And if you can't do it, you feel like it's too technical, you can always have someplace like Micro Center do it.
Hire somebody else to do it.
Yep. Exactly. All right. The next question. This one's an interesting one. I need to explain it first, but let me ask the question first. He goes, I heard Tony say something along the lines of online ruin gaming. Does everyone on Throwdown agree with that? Why and why not? Well, this came up last week, I believe, where we were talking about some of the shit that's kind of bad with gaming, and I said online gaming kind of ruined things because, yeah, obviously, now you have fucking DLCs and all this other bullshit. But I was kind of speaking in the general sense where I feel like, and I've been feeling this a lot lately, where I think just social media in general has really fucked up society. But yeah, when I was speaking about gaming specifically, I was more talking about DLCs, patches, shit like that, over reliance on multiplayer modes, dumb stuff like that. Now everything has to be an esport, going back to what we were talking about before. That type of stuff I feel has kind of ruined gaming because, like, I said this last week, I was like, to me, the PS2 era was the last pure era of gaming before all that online nonsense took over. So yeah, obviously and not everybody on Throwdown feels this way. So I want to hear what you guys have to say about online gaming.
I think it's great, especially for people like myself who's detached and moved away from friends and have to rely on, like, I just finished Gears of War 4 with a buddy of mine back in New York, and that was great because that was our thing. That's what we did. We would get together, we'd play and stuff, and we can't do that anymore. So we do it online, and it still works. Thanks to online gaming. Yeah, patches and all that. It's a double-edged sword because one point, yeah, it sucks because we're getting pre-broken games and the patches. On the other hand, if a game is broke, we can pretty much guarantee we're going to get a fix for it.
Yeah, but back in the day,
we were fucked.
It rarely happened. It happened.
It happened. It's just no one focused on it because it was like, nothing we could do about it. Shit's broke.
You can't compare the broken shit that we got back in the day to now. Now is way worse because they know they can fix it.
Well, that's different. Well, that's it. They can fix it, but that's nothing different. That's been happening on PCs for years with applications.
But again,
you have an internet connection.
You can just fix it. That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah, it's all right. Okay.
Yeah, Manny, what's your take? Because you're not a big online dude either,
No, I don't. I do appreciate all of the the things that have come with it a lot, especially a lot of the connectivity and stuff like that. But again, I'm concentrating more on the single player experience of games. And a lot of times you'll have those situations where you're having games that are just broken. They don't start up. I mean, one of the worst experiences I had, and this is probably, I'm not sure how many people had it, but I played Assassin's Creed Revelations, and that fucking game every single goddamn time would freeze on me. I wouldn't even be playing very long. I'd be falling to the ground, just these horrible, like
Unity, right? You're saying Revelations?
Yeah, no, Revelations. That was one
of that issue. Yeah, I had it in Unity though. She was broken.
Yeah, well, Unity was already was pretty broken. But like stuff like that. That's the sort of stuff that annoys me. Like where I feel like before I could play a game and still, and get a stable experience just by doing what you normally do in the game. One of the things that I always felt at the time, that I feel always kind of ruined, solid kind of games was the open world game, because there's all these systems that are piled on top of each other. And that's part of the reason why I don't like the Grand Theft Auto series, because of what came with that series, where it's like you have all these different systems that one system could go up and then you fall into the ground or something like that. But yeah, I do. There's the part of I don't think it's ruined the gaming. I just feel like it's messed with the fact that just trying to put out a solid experience. The ground experience should be the solid experience, and then each iteration after that should be like DLC or whatever thing you want to add on it. Not just like, all right, you buy the game and then we got to fix it.
Yeah, I don't think in my opinion it hasn't ruined anything. I think there's always been complications with gaming. There's always been things that we've been nagging about since the inception of gaming. So online is something that was gonna happen, and that it's gonna stay till the end of gaming, So I don't know, it's connected a lot of people. It's done like all these things, but yeah, like what Manny's saying about DLCs, like developers haven't even like sent, like for example, physical copies. They haven't even sent the complete game. Like they always have to fix stuff. They always have to add stuff, like day one patches and stuff like that. So that's kind of like the drawbacks to the online incorporation of gaming. But I don't know. We still get the patches, so I guess for me, it doesn't completely ruin it.
The one thing that that kind of bugs me a little bit is that essentially the version that you of a game that you could have played originally and you kind of were perfectly happy with the way that version of it played. Let's say you decide to go back to it like 3 months later, and then all of a sudden a bunch of shit is all switched around. Like
a trophy name.
Not even a trophy name. I mean, like menus and all kinds of other systems and stuff. Like I put down Metal Gear Solid 5 down there. Granted, the menus in that game were fucking just stupid nonsense, and now they're I guess better. I don't know. They just changed a bunch of shit around, but it's like I went in before, and then literally one time I just updated the shit and I hadn't played it again, and I'm like, holy shit. Everything is switched around now. And then they have to give me another tutorial how to go and go through this new version of the menu system.
I had that happen in Division. I think we talked about that. Brian and I talked about that, how when they changed the tier system and they changed the whole structure, it was like a brand new interface. It was a different game almost. Structure.
But like the positive side of that, like imagine like the PS4 dashboard, like when it first came out, it was horrible. And not even to mention the Xbox One dashboard, which was the worst, man.
Yep.
We got a lot of improvements for that. So if we would have had to deal with that the whole generation, that shit.
You're just stuck. If they would have said, "Oh, this is it. This is what you got," it's like,
I'm gonna sound like an idiot right now. What did they do to the PS4 dashboard? I haven't seen any difference.
They added the folders. They did that quick menu thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, two things I don't use. No wonder, because I'm like, is this
not use folders?
Really? Because there's no point in that. I
have a whole arcade folder just with fighting games, and that's it. I know where all my fighting games are, and I have all my shooters in one folder, and I have all my role-playing games.
I have a specific folder set to like the things that I'm currently playing, so that I just go into that folder and I'm like, oh, okay, that's.
I gotta ask this, and Manny, by the way, you're roboting over there. Do you need to like have all your games installed in order for you to do that? Because I'm like, I only have like 5 games in my thing. Like, I don't have. There's no point for me to make a folder. Like basically every game I have installed, they're all right there. I don't have that many games installed. Huh? I only have like 5 or 6 games installed. I always delete games when I'm done with them.
4 terabytes of shit.
Yeah, so I don't really need maybe that's why I'm like, I don't really need folders. They're all right there,
And I guess
I always delete games. I think this generation started me on that shit. It's like, shit, I don't have any room. I gotta delete stuff. But now I'm still doing that, even though I have 2 terabytes, But anyway, anybody else want to jump in on the question about online gaming?
Yeah, I think. Okay, Chris, do you want to go first, or
no? You go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian.
I think it's a double-edged sword. It's on one hand, it's been like amazingly great for gaming. I mean, we've been able to get games like get fixed, games that actually like work eventually. Like systems that are broken tend to get fixed, which is great. So so on the consumer front, that is great. But then on the flip side, it enables them to release games that are broken. So it's kind of like you can't have one without the other, and one sucks, the other one's great, and it's just kind of like we're back at like the zero-sum game of like it's either we get something that's shit and works somewhat, but that's the state that it's going to stay at, or get something that's really bad at launch and it gets better over time, and then it's weird, but I'm at a point where I'm like, I will accept the way it is because I think the benefits outweigh the cons, and I only invest in the benefits side. Hence why I tend not to buy games on day one. I tend to like wait like 3-4 months afterwards, because I know that by that time that would have been like the real game that came out. Like look at Mass Effect on launch compared to like Mass Effect on like now. Like they've ironed out like lots of the stupid problems that it had, like the dialogue and all sorts. So I guess it only hurts you most if you buy games day one. And since I don't do that, I don't see like those problems.
But you can get lots of discounts from, well, I guess not through PC. I was going to say you can get Amazon discounts by buying games early, but
You get PC discounts for gaming on PC.
All right, Chris, what were we going to say, man?
No, Brian made some good points. I'd only say I don't think online ruined gaming. I think it expanded it. I think the publisher-developer relationship that has spawned in the past 3 generations is what has ruined gaming. As soon as publishers, especially console publishers like EA and Activision, got their hands on a box basically that's a closed system and works like a PC where you can push updates, then testing and timing went out the window. Games weren't given time to develop properly. Testing is out the window. Fix it later. Kind of culture came in, and that really ruined gaming. It's like we want it out faster, we want it cheaper to get a big ROI, and we'll fix it later. So that philosophy is really what has ruined gaming. It's not that the consoles now had access to online, and that caused that culture to form. That culture was already there on PC. It just pushed into console gaming, and that's a publisher's fault because they get to set the deadlines, they set the budgets, they set all that stuff. So they push that culture in there. They're like, great, now we can push out broken games and just get the minimal out and fix it later and then chop up the game and make DLC. Those are business decisions that had nothing to do with online.
Yeah, that's a fair way of looking at it. All right, let's move on here. Mr. Casual Hands, who I believe is a first timer, although he's may not be happy with us at the moment.
What do we do, Ray?
So he goes, why do people such as yourselves keep saying that Phil Spencer said Horizon Zero Dawn doesn't have any impact? Phil said games like Horizon and Breath of the Wild are the anomalies and not the standard when it comes to the impact they make. Those were 2 games that were huge, and he wants all single player to be huge just like them, not just a few games. Well, let's pull up Mr. Phil Spencer's actual quote here so you can understand why we and everybody else was like, what is up with Microsoft's stance on single player games? He goes, the audience for those big story driven games, I won't say it isn't large, but they're not as consistent. You'll have things like Zelda or Horizon that'll come out and they'll do really well, but they don't have the same impact they used to have because big service-based games are capturing such a large amount of the audience. Sony's first-party studios do a lot of these games, and they're really good at them. But outside of that, it's difficult. They're becoming more rare. It's a difficult business decision for those teams. You're fighting it to want more headway. So that's why we're saying that. He says it right there. But he did have a kind of retraction because obviously he got a lot of heat for saying dumb shit like that. Let me pull up the retraction here real quick. And he said this on Twitter. He goes, Horizon Zero Dawn is great. As an industry, we should want single player to be healthy. Today, as a genre, we see fewer single player games being built. I love playing single player games. Okay, so he said that. But yeah, that's why we say that, because he literally said those games don't have impact. He literally said that. He basically, the whole thing was framed around the fact that Microsoft wants to do more service-based games, right? So they're, people were asking him about that, like, why do you want to make more, service-based games? It's because he feels that those games don't have as much impact. So that's what.
And then the other thing is, if you have if you have a service-based sort of game, you don't actually need to make as much of an investment.
You don't. Here's the thing. I understand where he's coming from, because those service-based games could make you way more money than think about this. One of those service-based games like Overwatch probably doesn't take a lot to actually make, right? I could be wrong, but it doesn't look like it's a giant fucking, you don't need to hire actors or fucking, stage sets and write a big story. You don't really need to do that. It's just get people in there, they're killing each other, right? But the money you get out of that is more than you put into it. With a AAA single player game, you may not get the return on your investment because it costs a lot of money to make a game like that. So that's where I understand where he's coming from. It's like, okay, the industry's gearing more towards this stuff. So Breath of the Wild, that kind of stuff is not really that relevant anymore. I understand that. I don't agree with it, but I understand where he's coming from. But that's why we're saying that. We're not saying that because we have some fucking agenda. It's literally what the man said. I just read it to you. And there's not really much more to say on that because we've talked about that in the past. So moving on here to Mr. Sodep1. We talked about this too, but we'll go over it again. What do you guys think about the SNES Classic Edition, and why not have a virtual console instead of the NES and SNES Mini? I actually want to focus on the second part of that. If you want to hear our thoughts on it, check out the last episode of Throwdown. But yeah, Chris, I'm going to you. Why did Nintendo create the NES Mini and the SNES Mini instead of giving us the virtual console from the outset? I know the answer, but I want you to just say it.
Okay, well, I mean, Nintendo is not known for their online stuff. Single sign-on and all this stuff they're trying to implement is immensely difficult, especially when they don't look at what competition does, right? So they're having difficulties getting all that stuff integrated. So it was a culmination of multiple factors that the NES Mini came about. One reason was they had a ton of overstock Wii U hardware, including nunchucks and cabling. So how do they get rid of that, right? They either throw it in a dump, like Atari did in '83, just throw everything away and just say the console's a failure, or you repurpose it. How do you repurpose it? Well, they came up with a brilliant solution. Since they didn't have a virtual console, they made a mini emulator built around nostalgia, and the input ports use those cables. Done deal. And you guys paid $60 to get recycled Wii U hardware. So then, since that was such a success, and the reason it was so limited wasn't because they decided it was limited, it's because they wanted to just push out that leftover hardware. Yeah, the surplus hardware. Once it was gone, they didn't need to make any more, so they stopped. But since it was such a rousing success, and they probably got harassed to no end when it was so difficult to get, and they saw what happened on eBay and all that stuff, they said, "Oh shit! Well, we should try to make this thing, and we should put on like more A-list games on it." Like it was that's a pure business decision. So it's like now the thing looks like it has actual SNES ports, right? That can take the classic control, and they're going to actually make old school controllers for it, right? So now the NES Mini was just a surplus offload. The SNES Mini is a conscious effort to bank on nostalgia. So
But it's
that's
shorter window. That's the other thing. You heard it? It's like 2-3 months, and that's it.
Yeah, because the window fits almost perfectly with the end of the calendar year and the holiday season, and then the gap before they launch the network, which will probably then have some form of virtual console. So it fits neatly in that period of missing virtual console, right? And they're selling it for $80. So I mean, these are great games. Like, don't get me wrong. Like the list of games on there blows the NES Mini's list away, where 60% of those games were trash as far as I'm concerned. But these games are all A-list, right? So this is a conscious effort now. They're trying. I don't believe they'll have much stock of it because, like I said, there's still the NAND shortage going on. And even an emulator board needs parts to build, so I don't see them manufacturing too many of these. So I would say even worse than the Switch, because the Switch they're going to keep making them through this shortage and find a way to keep manufacturing it. So if you can find this thing, or you got a buddy or something, get your hands on it if you want it.
Yeah, you can't even get it now. By the way, I want to give a quick shout out to my man, Hip Hop Gamer, who's in the chat room right now giving us love. So thank you for that. He's talking about his new giant fucking TV that he has. That's going to be awesome, man. But yeah, but that's pretty much it. Like, basically, the SNES Classic is a kind of stopgap until they release the virtual console. Let's just be real, Now, my question to you is, did they have more of those wires left over? Is that why they were able to make this?
Oh no! This console is conscious. That's what I meant when they said this. It's using original. As far as I could tell from the art that was released and the boxes on the pre-order, it's using old SNES ports, the old 7-pin port. Yeah. So they have to remake those controllers, right? But if you have the old ones, theoretically you should be able to plug it in and it will work.
That'd be awesome. But yeah, like you said, try getting one. Exactly. Good luck with that.
But
all right, go ahead.
One good thing about it is that, like, okay, now you have these new versions of the SNES controllers with the classic ports on them. If you have an old SNES, theoretically it should work on that one. And remember that I think the cords on these versions are actually a lot longer than even the original SNES.
Right. Again, because they're consciously building it They had no choice. Those are nunchuck cables they were recycling for the NES Mini, and those were already short, and the impedance on those things couldn't go any longer, so that they were stuck with them.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why they were so short, and it was such a stupid thing to many people. They didn't realize why they did it. But now they get to make a standard size. It will be probably as long as the SNES cable was, the original controller.
Interesting. All right. Anybody else have any other thoughts on this? I think Chris, you pretty much nailed it. You know. All right. So let's move on here to Black Metal Gamer. So we were actually talking about you before the show about how you like actual black metal bands. Not what did you call it? It was like Hot Topic black metal. You don't like that shit.
Hey, I saw Merciful Fate and a couple of other bands that are down there. So you're straight cash, yo.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. You're good. Even though I still like Demu.
I love Demo.
But Cradle Filth is a fucking joke. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, no.
All right. All right. So his first question is, he goes, okay, it's one of these type of questions. He goes, here's a scenario. You're in a Saw movie death trap, and you have to save one life in order for you to be saved. Here are your choices. Sony's Jim Ryan, Peter Molyneaux, Reggie Fils-aime, or Don Mattrick. Who do you save and why?
Well, it's not going to be Don Mattrick.
Yeah, I'm not saving his ass.
Oh man.
Who are them?
Jim Ryan, Peter Molyneaux, Reggie
Jim
Fils-aime.
Ryan. I'm a little sketchy on Jim Ryan again.
Jim Ryan's that fool from Sony's been saying all that nonsense lately.
Okay, Jim Ryan, Peter Molyneaux,
and Reggie fills me up.
To be honest, I feel like it'd be more of a loss to lose Peter Molyneaux.
Yeah, that's
so
my
I'm gonna save him.
Just for
all those other guys that we're speaking about.
Wait, didn't we already lose him to Liverpool?
He's still alive though.
He's not in the industry anymore, so it's like it doesn't matter.
Well, I feel like he has a legacy. All those other guys, they're marketing people.
That's right.
Yeah, that is.
You know what, Manny? You just gave the answer right there, man. Peter Molyneaux actually made games.
Yeah,
Peter Molyneaux, despite all the the promises he made to these two games, he's actually made games that people like, as opposed to those other guys that are just reading the cue cards.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I don't even think you could argue that point, to be honest. I think you just killed it right there. You know. All right. So his next question is, do you
someone leave him with nothing but a seed?
A seed? Yeah. Don't give him a seed.
Yeah, you rescue yourself, leave him a seed, but like this seed will
be like
grow into a great tree, which will grow into a key that you can use and then unlock your shackles.
Yes, man.
I mean, the other thing, it'll be like, also I would write an incredibly huge letter, while in blood on the ground of this saw trap, and be like, Peter Molyneaux, I've given my life to you from this stupid saw trap. You better make something fucking good and don't lie to people.
Yes.
And he says he retired, and what a shame.
Oh man. All right. So his next question is, do you think the Xbox 2, PlayStation 5, or Switch U will finally be at 1080p 60 frames a second for all games? So yeah, he's basically asking about next gen games. Will we finally get 1080p 60 standard for every game?
No.
I don't think so either.
No, we'll see the scope of
either.
Games increase because people are already used to this fidelity for the most part. So we'll see the scope of games increase, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because the games that you do get, 1080 60 frames are usually not rendering a lot, or not, they're corridor games. They're games where you can't interact with the environment a lot, and those, they look real pretty, but they're very constraining gameplay wise.
Yeah, look at everything on Switch that's 1080p 60. Small games, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You can theoretically make a game. Here's the fun, interesting thing about this. You can theoretically make a game like God of War and run that thing at 60 frames per second, because that game does not. You can't go everywhere in that game.
But Manny, my friend, that actually happened. Remember when they remade the game? 60 frames.
60 frames a second. And what was it, 1080, right?
1080p, yep, because it's a corridor type of game,
It's a corridor type of game.
Actually, remember, it's just whatever you see on the screen, that's all that's being rendered.
That's all that's being drawn. So
yeah.
Whereas
Oh, not gonna happen.
Whereas an open world game, which is everything on the market now.
God, yeah, I know. But yeah, I think Roberto's right. Like games are only gonna keep getting bigger. So 60 frames, nope, not unless you're playing on PC.
I feel like the next generation will be 1080p standard and 60.
Yeah,
but it won't have the 4K. We'll still be running checkerboarding. We'll be running checkerboards in those for that sort of stuff. We won't see a 1080 60 and a 4K 60 in the next generation, like everybody wants.
Oh hell no! Not in the next generation. It's way too soon. Like they haven't got like 1080p 60 down. So 4K 60.
Exactly.
No way. I say it all depends on CPU power. If these next gen consoles have like an actual decent CPU, then it is a possibility. But until that happened, it'll mostly just be last gen games will be bumped up to 1080 60, like we've seen this far. It's like, oh, God of War 3 1080 60, but yet Dared of War will be 1080 30 with checkerboard rendering. And it's like, oh, Uncharted Remaster 1080 60, but Uncharted 4 1080 30 because. Yeah.
So if this generation was mostly remasters, what are they going to remaster for next generation?
They're gonna remaster.
Remasters.
The games that came out this year. They're gonna remaster.
Dude,
It's like Blu-rays.
Brett, we're getting a remake of a remaster in freaking Shadow of the Colossus this year or next year.
Oh,
And also
that is true.
find that we got like Final Fantasy X and X2, like remastered for the PS4,
And
the
also
PS3 as well.
Kingdom Hearts as well. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So basically, they're going to keep just giving out this like the same games because
The return of the Throwdown Crickets. We haven't had those in a while, man. I'm trying to figure out which one of you motherfuckers is that.
It's whoever has their window open. Brett?
Yeah.
That's me.
The Throwdown Crickets, man. We're getting a lot of comments about the Throwdown Crickets one episode. All right.
It's the night.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on here. Mr. Gary Swaby coming in with the last questions here. He actually asked 3 questions. Gary, 2 questions, bro. But luckily, your first question here, we already answered. He goes, are we seeing popularity shift to Japanese games after Western games dominated things for so long? Yeah, the pendulum is kind of shifting. But yeah, we answered that before. So we'll move on to your next question. Okay. What is your true opinion on original Xbox games, that are backwards compatible, not having, he goes trophies, not having achievements? Okay, so basically, and I did a quick video on this. Phil Spencer said that old Xbox games, I'm talking about original Xbox games that are backwards compatible, most of them, not all of them, most of them will not have achievements, and they won't support widescreen, right? Because it's the original source code, basically. That's what's going on there, which kind of stinks. Like, I personally was kind of bummed about it because Adam, remember I was talking to you about this. Like, I really wanted those achievements for the old games, but at the same time, again, now that I calmed down, I'm like, fuck, I understand where they're coming from. But here's the thing. He said,
I haven't calmed down.
Okay, that's fair. Here's the thing. He said most games. You know why he said most games? Because there were a good number of Xbox games that did support, like better resolutions and stuff, higher resolutions. So not everything's going to be 640 by whatever the fuck 4:3 aspect ratio is. So some games will look good. Like, remember Phantom Dust, which recently came out, right? That game, not only did it already support like higher resolutions, but it had better textures than a normal Xbox game. That's why they were able to just shove it in there, But yeah, for the most part, it's not going to be like PlayStation 2 games on PS4 they're not remasters, but they're ports. So you have to redo them again, right? That's why
they're not totally ports, but they do run them in a higher resolution.
Yeah, and they get trophies and stuff but it's not the original source code, if I remember correctly. That's the difference. The original Xbox games are the original source code. I don't think
they're just not. Yeah, there's a little bit of development that goes into those PlayStation 2 games, and
that's probably why we
PlayStation 2
don't
games,
see too much, right? Manny?
That's probably why you don't see too much, and it's also being that there's so little probably put into them. That's why there's also kind of glitches in some of those games. Like Rogue Galaxy, you noticed there was some weirdity as far as certain graphics and stuff looked.
Right. So, Adam, what's your take on this, man? Because I know you.
And they can do it. I mean, with the trophies and we've seen with the Warriors, we've seen Manhunt. These are multi-platform games, and they put trophies on those. So just take those same names and flip them around and call them a Chivo, and that's it. What is, they can attach it, figure out a way. They have to understand that if they want to sell these things, they need to attach achievements. And people don't understand. We're like, oh, what's the big deal? It's not so much about the numbers. It's just keeping a journal. It's a log. It's like, yeah, it's one thing to say you've done it. It's another thing. It's like, you know what? I have that game from my past now linked with all my other games from the present of games that I've completed and accomplished, and they're all coordinated and have all the accounts for it. And I think they're going to need to do it, and eventually they will. But I hope that it's not one of those situations where it's going to come in an update or a patch, who knows how long. If they say, oh, yeah, buy this now, don't worry, it's coming. You know what? I'll wait till it comes. That's my take on it. I think it needs to be, or else they're just sending these games out to die.
Yeah, that's my like I said, like I personally felt like, what's the point, like in playing these old games if you're not even?
They created the whole achievement trophy system, and then you're going to bring games that don't have it.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but again, I could kind of understand. They probably don't want to put too much work into it,
It's interesting because like those games, like the PlayStation 2 games actually all have achievements on top of them, but the PlayStation 1 games don't.
No, they don't. Yeah, because they're just straight, basically. All right. Anybody else want to jump in on that? I'm going to take that as a no. So we'll go to the final question tonight's show. All right. At what point do you start removing games from your backlog, and what plays a part in the decision? Oh, yeah, this is something we've all had to tackle with at one point or another, man. When do you decide, fuck it, I'm giving up. I am not going to try to do this entire fucking backlog? Good question, man. I actually need to think about this a little bit because I've had a change of heart, but I don't want to go right now. Brett.
Is it the Sacred Heart?
Yes. Brett, what do you say about this?
I generally don't take games out of my backlog. It takes an awful lot for me to put them in there. And generally speaking, like I'll look forward to a game, but I don't buy it unless I know that I want to play it. And it's I don't consider a game in my backlog, obviously, unless I already own it. So, and even then, I have a theoretical backlog. Like Persona 5 is in my backlog. It's not one of those games that I'm going to skip. It may take me a while to get there, but I'm going to finish it. So I generally don't have a backlog more than maybe 4 or 5 games deep at a time. That may change. I'm not one for splurging on Steam sales either. So I know that there are people with a backlog of 1 to 200, but for me it's just it takes a lot to get you in there, and then I'll find the time at some point.
Yeah. Carlos, man, what about you?
Oh man, I have my backlog. Like when you have a Steam account, like backlogs is like an oxymoron because
yeah,
it's like that most of the games you have in your library you're just not gonna play.
some you have you just want to have because you're like, well, it's at this price, might as well.
Yeah, so like for example, like when they say when Gary says remove games from your backlog, does he mean like play the games or like actually?
Like when do you say, you know what, I'm just not gonna? I know I'm never gonna play this game, so I'm removing it from the backlog. I think that's what he's talking about.
Probably maybe 2 or 3 years after they came out. Like for example, I have so many games in my backlog this year. I have Gravity Rush 2. I have Nier. I'm pretty sure Shadow of War is going to be one of them. So if it's like 3 years, and I still haven't played Gravity Rush 2, it's probably off my backlog unless something like makes me want to play it again for some random reason. And that's pretty much how it works. I some games is like the year that comes out, I still have like the motivation to play it, so I keep that in mind. I have those games, but after 2 or 3 years, after the hype has died down and no one really talks about those games anymore, it's like I kind of lose motivation for it.
Yeah, with me, like this kind of started in the PlayStation 3 era. Like there was just so many games. They always had games on sale, games for free. So I'm constantly just picking them up. And I'm like, okay, I'll get to them. Then I got the PS4. I'm like, damn, I'm still going to play those PS3 games. It's still held out that hope. And then, when I started getting into PC gaming and just buying games for literally fucking cents, I'm like, okay, Tony, you know what? Give it up. You're never going to get through these games. Play whatever's in front of you and just be happy with that, you know? Because, yeah, you're right, Carlos. It's like shit like everyone's always telling me, Tony, you got to play The Witcher 3. I'm probably never going to play that game. I'm just being honest. Like, there's so much shit coming out, and that game's, like, insanely long. I'm probably never going to get to it, you know? So, yeah, there comes a point where I'm like, right now, I'm just like, whatever's in front of me, I'll play. I'm not too worried about what's behind me anymore because I'm probably not going to play whatever's behind me. There's just look at my fucking Steam account right now. I have 212 fucking games. You think I'm going to play all those? Get out of here, you know? So I just focus on whatever's in front of me at the moment, mostly the newer games. That's where I really focus my attention on, new games. Sometimes I'll
more
go back
like for work for you too, you know? I mean, it sort of forces you into progression. Because you have to talk about, you have to talk about what's new.
Yeah, for work, obviously.
Yeah, that's
the other thing. I have to keep up with the latest games, and obviously, I mean, it kind of works well because I'm a guy that generally likes AAA games, and those are the games that generally get talked about. So it's a good thing. I know there's some writers that really like indie games and stuff, but sometimes they may not get a lot of traffic for that sort of stuff. The kind of stuff I like will generally get a lot of traffic. But you're right. I have to focus on whatever's in front of me right now because it's twofold. It's like, one, I want to play them, and two, that's the shit I need to be covering anyway. I can't be wasting time playing old shit when I got to cover the new stuff. Sometimes I'll get a little bit of a break, and I could actually go back to play stuff like Axiom Verge or Inside, but those are generally smaller games. So maybe I need to adjust my strategy of trying to incorporate some of those smaller games in there for my backlog. Completing my backlog is completely unrealistic unless somebody out there invents a hyperbolic time chamber. That's the only way I'm going to be able to beat all these games, So right now I'm just focusing on whatever's in front of me.
That's pretty much how I used to do, like, whenever when I would ever do my sort of games. Like, remember, like, I'll have like a big AAA sort of game, and then I'll have a game that I can finish in less time and play those, in between. Like, so, like, how, like, you I remember you used to call me the indie guy.
Yeah.
Because I always ended up playing a bunch of the indie games because I play them in between the, between the monotony of the big super game. For me now, when I game, obviously I don't have a lot of time to play. I don't consider games part of my backlog until I've actually started them. So what that means is, I do have quite a bit. I do have quite a bit of games that those PlayStation Network games, like the free ones. I have quite a few of those games that I do plan to play, but I don't consider them part of my backlog until I finish it. In other words, every single game that I've already gone down the road of playing, I've already I've at least completed, with the exception of Mad Max, which I've started twice and deleted twice.
Oh shit. By the way, I like that strategy of yours because it kind of makes you less insane. You know what I mean? Like, if I went by that theory, I don't have any games in my backlog right now. you know?
Well, here's the thing: those games on your Steam network, did you even buy them with the intent of even playing them? A lot of those, you're like, even like Adam
have them. I just wanted to have them.
Exactly. So it's just the collection thing. So those things officially, I don't consider them part of backlog. Mind you, my Steam library only has a few games.
Yeah, somebody gift this man some games, please.
Nobody gonna give me no games.
I gave you some games.
Yeah, but
you gave me some good games. I mean, I still have them in there. And I haven't actually started them because one of them I couldn't actually play. My old
I remember we had to give you.
My old PC can't handle it, man.
My old graphics card couldn't play. What was that? The side-scrolling zombie game.
Oh yeah, it was the one that came out on Xbox, and then
for some reason the old graphics card that I had before, the one Adam gave me, that shit for some reason could not play that. Like, my original one couldn't play that. It's a side scroll. It should work. No, it doesn't. It ran like stupid slow.
By the way, I need to bring this up. You just brought it to my attention. Here's one of the things that always kind of sucks when it comes to backlog. You're always thinking, I need to play this next. I need to play this next. Like right now, I told you guys this before the show. I started playing Persona 5 again. I shouldn't be doing that because I have too many games, right? But that's the thing. It's like, okay, I can't play what I really want to play because I have too much of a backlog. It kind of sucks. Like, if it was up to me, I just play Persona 5 for the rest of the fucking year, but gotta move on, But anyway,
the other thing that also affects me with gaming is the time that I actually finish work. So, I mean, I've said this many times. And you guys know, I stay crazy late.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm going to bed at maybe
Making
2 or
comics.
2, 3, maybe even 4 o'clock, right? If I decide to, hey, I'm going to play this game, I'd be up till the next day.
Yeah,
I
by the
wouldn't
way,
get any sleep.
yeah, Barry Burton, he goes, there are less fortunate children in other countries that are starving for entertainment. So you better finish all those games.
You know what would be kind of cool? If you could actually, if Steam figured this out, where you could donate those games that you're not playing to some fortunate kid somewhere.
I was gonna say if you could have some like little African kid play the games for you.
I'm saying this where like you have obviously
shit. Like listen, man, I need to finish these games, bro.
No,
go ahead, man.
Obviously, you're never gonna play these games ever in your life.
Yeah, right? I'm not gonna play
FDJ
and shit.
They're just sitting there. So why isn't there some sort of system which allows okay, you can in Steam or whatever where you can donate these games to some kid who doesn't have any. I dropped something. some kids who have they have obviously part of those things, they give them a pretty decent PC and you give them these old games.
That'd be interesting.
There is kind of a way you can do that. It's not directly, but what you can do is when you buy a game, instead of putting it inside of your library, you put it inside of your inventory, and then you can gift it after that.
Yeah.
So you still purchase the game, and then since it's not in your library, you can still gift it to other people. That is what I tend to do now these days. I just tend to put it inside my library, and then if I just find that I'm not playing a game or I just don't like it, then I'll just okay, I'll just gift it to someone. So it is possible, but once it's inside your library, that's a done deal.
Fair enough. All right, Brian, since you're talking, what do you do about backlog management?
This is actually quite funny because I'm in that rare situation, and it ties back to an earlier question. Because I'm not enjoying this gen that much, I've not had quote unquote much to play, so I've actually gone back to my PS3 backlog, and I'm clearing that up.
Nice.
So right now, well, I finished that fighting game and I got the platinum in it. That was the most fun Saturday afternoon I've ever had. It's like I had 2 trophies left to get. One of them was get a 90 hit combo with one of the characters.
Wait, what game is this?
Under Night in Birth Exile, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
It came out 2012. Okay, so I don't blame you. Yeah, one of them was get 90 hit combo with one of the characters, and then the other one was do 30 waves of survival. And man, that was intense. Because the survival one, it didn't matter what level. No, it didn't matter what difficulty you set it to. It just kept on just wrapping it up until the hardest one, and the hardest one was stupid. I mean, these guys could take out half your life bar with one combo.
Damn.
So yeah, you make 2 mistakes and you're dead. So yeah, so after a Saturday, I beat that. Now I'm on Abyss Odyssey, and then I think after this I have Beyond Good and Evil, the first one, and then the God of Wars.
My man went back.
Yep, and then I have the 4 God of War games. I need to platinum.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
then I think Dragon's Dogma, and then that's it.
Yeah. By the way, Brian, 5 God of War games you got a platinum, or did you already have a platinum for one of them?
No, 4. Just the main thing.
4, right? You're okay. I see.
What was it? What's the last one they did release? The co-op one.
Yeah. Only the main ones, not the PSP ones.
Yeah, no.
They have those on PS3.
No, this one was.
But I'm not gonna play them.
You mean God of War?
Wait, whoa, hold on! But those are the best God of War games.
Yeah,
$2. They have it on sale now.
I don't have time, man.
They're relatively short too.
Yeah, they're short games. They're 5 hours each, bro.
That's 10 hours in total. That's another game I could be playing.
Yeah, you're playing this random game nobody ever heard of.
I am not adding games to my backlog. I'm trying to clear the backlog here.
I can understand
hey,
that.
But
I guess.
hopefully Brian's going to play old games motivates Tony to play the Halo games.
Maybe that's the thing. I want to play those old Halo games, but the time, I got to devote it to new shit.
Here's the one saving grace about those old Halo games. They're original game lengths.
Yes, that's true.
Brian's talking about going back to Beyond Good and Evil. And when I played that game, I got to play it, when they re-released it, I was like, oh my God, this game is not 50 million thousand hours long, and I feel like I have a sense of accomplishment. Oh my god,
That's how I felt when I played Voodoo Vince. I was like, oh shit, I'm done.
I mean,
Wow.
granted, Beyond Good and Evil is an open world game as well, but it isn't like, it's not vast. It's not like crazy huge.
Yeah, for sure. All right, anybody else want to jump on into this conversation about?
I just rotate them. You know, I play a new one, I play an old one, I play an obscure one, I play one I shouldn't be playing. You know, what I do, I just rotate. You know, and then it's also the mood I get into. You know, sometimes I get in a mood and I just want to play something like when I went back to LA Noire and then beat that again. And it was like, why did I do that? I already know the outcomes. It was fun. I like the period.
LA Noire is just, at least I know some people won't agree with me, but I had a lot of fun with that game. And
that was a good game.
I listened to the soundtrack is part of my thing of different music that I let run while I'm playing.
Oh, you got that platinum too, right?
Well, yeah. Well, he did, yeah.
No, you got it, right?
Oh, you did.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah, I was making sure. That was like pretty easy platinum, you know.
What, but LA Noire? Yeah. The only thing for me I didn't get was some of the DLC ones. There's one DLC thing that I didn't get.
Okay. Yeah, I remember those.
But yeah, like that game, I was thinking like, man, this is such a cool game. Like it's like a nice period sort of game. You're playing a detective. I feel like we've lost that a little bit. But didn't that game that game didn't do that as well as like a Grand Theft Auto, did it? Right?
I think it did. It's just the studio had a shitload of problems.
Yeah, there was also
that.
Game. Yeah, there was games.
I'd like to see Rockstar get on that and do.
Well, they own it. That's what they said. They said that their plans on bringing it back because that is their IP. So
yeah, I'd like to see them do something.
Yeah, Chris, get in here, man.
I really don't take anything off my backlog. It's just an ever-growing list of impossibility that gets astronomically bigger and bigger. So right now I have a little more time on my hands. So I've been playing some of the indie games I got. I mean, my backlog is ridiculous. Like Steam alone is stupid. But then PSN starts having Steam sales. Like, I bought so much shit at Golden Week. I'm like, when am I gonna fucking play these?
Yeah, man.
So like I've been playing Acropolis, which is an old game that I saw at E3 that I was like, man, I kind of want to play this, right? So now I'm trying to beat it. And that game is freaking hard. So I'm like, okay, so now I'm cycling through the indie games, right? I'm going to play those for a bit. Then I'm going to go to Gravity Rush because I never played that game. And I got it during Golden Week. I got them for cheap. I got both of them. So I'm going to play those and then cycle through some other stuff. But yeah, nothing goes off the list. Everything is fair game.
Right, man. Fair enough, I guess.
A testament to how old the original Gravity Rush was. Me and Chris used to live in the same apartment at the time I was playing that.
Man,
PS Vita.
The old school.
You always used to make fun of me, like when I'll be playing, you always hear her screaming like ah, because she screams every single time she kicks.
Yeah, I was like, what is that?
Funny. All right, man. So that's going to bring the show to a close. So a couple of things here. So make sure you guys check out the latest episode of the quarterly report that we did over in the Coalition. So we covered games from April to June. There was a good, not only was a good discussion, but we talked about a lot of games. And then when we're looking forward to the games that are coming out next quarter, it's like, this is the summer and there's games coming out. What the fuck? So very, very good stuff, man. August in particular, August and September are nuts. Like, wow, so this is a good year. So yeah, make sure you check out the quarterly report. We're going to have it over on the, Manny, what's it called again? Throwdown Crossover?
Throwdown Crossover.
Yeah, check out that playlist. I should throw it in there this afternoon, but it's going to go live officially tomorrow. And also, we want to wish a happy 4th of July to all of our American viewers and listeners, man. We want you guys to, have fun. Please don't blow yourselves up, and celebrate this.
Don't drink and drive.
Yeah, don't drink and drive, man. Uber, please. Yeah, man. Yeah, 4-day weekend. Very nice. So everybody, enjoy yourselves out there. And that's going to do it for us. So thank you for watching and listening. Leave us your questions in the comment section of this episode here on YouTube or on the Coalition. And we'll answer them on next week's show. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, our show is Tony Polanco. And tonight I was joined by Emilio Lopez.
See you later, guys.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Carlos Romero.
Foodie Cootie Season 2 trailer came out.
Oh, shit.
What you call me?
Adam Vale.
Go watch some lucha. You got no excuse. You got time off. Sit there and grab some friends and be like, yo, look at this bullshit.
Brett Murdoch.
It's been real, everybody.
And Brian Manjoma.
Screw watching Lucha. Go watch Attack on Titan.
Yes. All right, guys. We'll see you on Thursday later.
Peace.
Peace.
Later, guys.
Yeah.